All right, welcome back to Adobe Photoshop, and today we're going to take a look at the cloning and retouching tools. And there's quite a few of them, and they all work just a little bit differently. I have this image here, and one of the best things that you can do inside of Photoshop, always work non-destructive. And what this means, it never is physically applying the adjustment or whatever you're doing to the image. It doesn't happen until you output it. And in this case, what we can do are two different methods to work non-destructively. First, you notice we have this layer over here, and I can hit Command or Control J on my computer, and that will duplicate that layer. Any retouching adjustment that I make, if I decide that I don't like it, I can refer back down to the image. Now, I don't actually prefer that method. So what I'm going to show you is a different method. And what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, and you'll notice there's this plus inside of a box in the layers menu. And I'm going to click that, and that is going to create a blank layer, and I'll call this retouch. And the way this works is all the retouching, cloning, anything that we do is going to happen on this blank layer. But there's one very specific thing that you need to do when working like this. All right, so if we move on over here, we have the spot healing brush. Below that, we have the new remove tool. Below that, we have the healing brush, which I really like. Below that is the patch tool. Below that is the content aware move tool. And then we have the rubber stamp, the tried and true rubber stamp that's been there forever, also known as the clone stamp tool. If we come on up here to the spot healing brush and we select this looks a little bit different in a few of the different menu options, but you'll notice over here it says sample all layers. And what that refers to is if I have that unchecked and I come in here and we'll try to just remove her eyeball, nothing's going to happen. Well, why did nothing happen? Well, because we're cloning a blank layer and there's nothing there. So if we click sample all layers, and then I was to go over the eye, and I have no idea how this is going to look, but it's going to probably do something weird. Yeah, it at least affected the image. So sample all layers looks down through the image layers, and image layer order is actually very important. And you need to make sure that this layer is on top of what you're working on. So we'll go ahead and hit Command Z to get out of that. And I'm going to zoom into this image just a little bit so we can see it in a little more detail. I'm going to hold the space bar. The space bar then allows me to move around the image. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the spot healing brush. I'm just going to make this smaller. You do want to adjust the size of your brush when doing all this stuff. You don't want to have a massive brush for a teeny tiny area. You'll notice that I'm using content aware. And basically, this is the easiest one because you just kind of brush over an area and it tries to repair it. Sometimes it doesn't get it perfect in the first try, and you can just basically go over any area within the image that you want to adjust. I'm going to remove this hair, so I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, and we'll just go ahead and paint along that hair, and you can see it did a pretty good job. Now, this is the issue with the spot healing brush, and the way to see this is I'm going to make it big, and I'm going to do this area right here. So we're going to say, hey, fix that area. And the issue is it softens the area. And you can see it's got that weird softening effect. So it's almost like it blends it together. And that doesn't look so good a lot of the times. And that's where its twin brother, the brush, which is two below, it's the Band-Aid with nothing on it, works so much better. Because what you do with the healing brush is you target an area. So we're going to come over here and click on that, and you'll notice it's sampled or pattern. Once again, we have all layers selected up here, and we need to target the area. So it's what it's looking at as the texture. So let's pick an area with some good texture, and we'll slide on over to this face on this side of the face, and it's nice and smooth here. I'm going to hold my Option or Alt on a PC button, and notice it turns into like that rifle scope. So we're going to left click, and that picks the texture. And then as I brush over that area, it's going to apply that texture. However, it's going to remove that from that location. And it didn't do such a great job. Let's make that a little bit bigger here. We're going to come in here and we're going to brush over it. And so that looks a whole lot better. It messed that area up. We'll go over it. Now watch what happens if I take the texture from the right-hand side. So if I come over here and I click that texture, and then I come over here and I brush, notice it's applying that texture to that side of the image, so it doesn't work. You need to retarget every time that you move to a new location to get the appropriate texture. So I'm gonna hit Command Z to undo that. And that is the healing brush. And I prefer that one because it doesn't do that softening effect. And we're gonna zoom in over here to this side of the face once again. We're gonna take a look at some of this. Now, the new one that we have here is right here. This is the remove tool. And the remove tool is using artificial intelligence to fill in the areas that we tell it to. Now, we have one additional thing that we want to tick on this. So if we look up here, and this is brand new, we have something called Find Distractions. That's there. That literally just came into Photoshop yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and skip over this. But what we're going to look at first is make sure Sample All Layers is selected. And right here where it says Remove After Each Stroke, we want that unchecked, because what happens is every time I go over an area, so in this case, if I want to remove that, notice it didn't remove it yet. And that's because every time you use the remove tool or something that uses artificial intelligence, it's costing you credits within Photoshop. So I only want to do it one time. So I want to come in here and remove all the areas at once. That way, I'm only costing myself credits for that one time. This works awesome and really good, and it works much better in extremely large areas than the other cloning tools. And so once I've got that, I can come up here and then click this little X, and now it will apply that adjustment and remove those areas. It takes a little bit longer for it to happen, but essentially it does a really, really good job most of the time. Now, don't worry about this stuff right here. We will get into it when we cover what's new in Adobe Photoshop. And that's the remove tool. It works really well. All right, so I have switched to a new image, and we're going to come down here to the patch tool. And the patch tool works like this. First of all, we have the content aware. So we're using content aware. We do not have a blank layer. So if I come over here and I create that blank layer, all right, then we need to make sure that Sample All Layers is selected. And basically what I want to do in this is, let's say I want to remove the little baby for some reason. So we will circle it. And I didn't do such a great job, but that's okay. And then what you want to do is slide this and move it to an area. Like if you pick this area, it's going to try to replace it with trees. So we want to pick a like area. And I can line up that shadow so it looks more realistic. The other thing you need to note is up here we have something called structure and color. So structure and color. And what that does is change how the patch tool works. If you want it to apply more structure or detail, you're going to raise that number. If you want more color accuracy, you're going to raise that number. If you want it to simplify, you're going to lower those numbers. And you need to kind of play around with this. One of the things that you'll see, and it didn't happen this time, which is wonderful, is sometimes when you make that selection, and this is the area that you repair, it does some funky stuff, and you need to clean up that area when you use the patch tool. So don't be surprised if you can see a little bit of where the patch tool worked. Partly that's because you need to adjust those structure and color numbers, and sometimes it's just not perfect, so you do need to go in and adjust it. So our next tool that we have over here is our content aware move, and it works like this. You need to select the area or the object that you want to move. And you're going to adjust your structure, your color, just like we did before. And it might take a couple of times. And then you simply click inside of your selection and move it. And don't try to make an accurate selection because it will do funky things. And so I'm going to move this to the new area, and then I can either click inside of it, click return, or click the little arrow. And basically it's going to remove this one and replace it over here. So you can see it's got a little fuzzy area here. And over here, it's kind of got sort of a halo is where it applied it there. This is where using a mask to paint out this area could be helpful. So I can come over here, I can apply a mask, and then I can come in with a brush in the color black because that's going to remove it. Remember, we're on that blank layer, and I can apply the old background. And you can see we can try to get it more accurate by doing that. And that can take some time when you're doing it, but essentially that is one way to add back an area where it's kind of made it bright. Up here, it's got some sort of out of focus haziness, and that's where you can come in with a tool and kind of fix it. So remember I said some of the cloning tools don't work perfectly the first time and you need to fix them. So we're going to come in here with the clone stamp tool, which we haven't used yet. So I'm going to click on the layer, not the layer mask, with the clone stamp, and we're going to come in here and I'm going to fix this. But before we do it, I want to show you how the clone stamp works. So we have the clone stamp tool, and the clone stamp works differently than I think most people think it will work. So I'm going to make it really big. And just like we did with the healing brush, we're going to hold that Option or Alt key. So Option or Alt key, and we get the little target. I'm going to click, and that targets that area. And if I come up here, you can see it clones the bird. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my left click down and I'm going to slide to the right. And you will notice that right below our image is a little plus. And that is showing you that the target where we selected, when we held down the Option or Alt key, moves as you move. So it doesn't keep repeating the original target, which was the bird. It moves as you move. When you use this brush, a lot of time you need to constantly retarget. So I'm going to hit the target, click on that. I'm going to go click. And then if I come over here, notice it moved. I'm going to hit click and it's letting me recreate, but it's moving as I move. So if I wanted to do 3 birds, I would need to go Option, click, Option, click, Option, click. And that would give me the 3 different birds. So you need to constantly retarget when you use that. So when I'm using it here, basically I'm going to adjust my brush to a smaller size. I've got my opacity about 75%. I think that's going to be okay. I'm on that blank layer, so I'm going to target here and kind of paste over where that fuzzy area is. And yeah, that's looking a whole lot better. And I could come in here and get this area as much. So we're cleaning it up. I'm going to remove the sheep here. So we're going to make this brush bigger. I'm going to click here and then apply that. And you can see it didn't totally remove it. And the reason is because I have my opacity at 75%. So if I come over here, now it's going to start to remove that. We're going to have to do this a couple times because I have a soft feathered brush. So it's not doing it even the whole way out. So you can see I removed that. Did I do a great, really accurate job? No, because we're just doing it quick. But that's basically how you use the cloning and retouching tools inside of Adobe Photoshop. If you found this video helpful and could give me a thumbs up, that would be awesome. Please don't forget to subscribe and have an absolutely wonderful day.